Hey, welcome to one of my Rambling Rants videos. This is going to be posted the day after the World War III Week 2 for the European and Middle Eastern theaters. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the thought process behind that and some of the dangers and kind of difficulties when we talk about like a limited nuclear war. And intermixed into this, you're going to see some footage from my gym because I haven't posted a gym video for a little bit, and so there's been some recent updates, and really we're in a transitional phase with the gym, and there's going to be some big news with that and some other stuff coming here probably the next month or so, but we're going to be phasing in kind of a new era, so to speak. And so really trying to mix more than just a gym but a dojo type of situation. Very similar you might see in a Japanese stable or dojo environment. Anyways, so some of the things that if you watch that video, and if you haven't, check it out. Link will be in the description. But as well as many of the other recent videos. So some of the here's the part where it becomes difficult. There's people and proponents of a theory that there's no such thing as a limited nuclear war. As soon as nuclear weapons start being used, it'll escalate to the point that it's an all-out exchange and strategic weapons will be used and the whole world goes green. Well, I mean, that's even if that were the case, the whole world going green and everything, that's a whole different topic. I just say that modern science and studies done on this don't necessarily support that it's not going to be the end of humanity, and we've survived cataclysmic events of a greater magnitude in Earth's history. Having said that, it would certainly be very devastating to our way of life, and the modern world as we know it would be fundamentally changed. But so here's the thing, and I've always argued because people say there's no such thing as a limited nuclear exchange. And I say, well, yes, there absolutely is. And yes, there absolutely could be. Clearly, an example, there's only been one nuclear exchange in history at this point, and that was in World War II, and that was the atomic weapons. And it was 2 weapons detonated, and that was it. Now, having said that, there was not... that's all that was available, so there were certain, the opposing side didn't have access to them. So there's really nothing to be learned about that as far as what modern nuclear strategy goes. There's a lot of scenarios and parameters where you could see a limited exchange, whether that's firing warning shots, whether that's an escalate to de-escalate situation. In my scenario, could very well have said, hey, after, the accidental detonation of Tokyo, there was a combined effort with the Chinese, the United States to remove the current North Korean leadership through different methods and install, somebody still from that kind of regime into that place so it doesn't change the status quo. Just like a warning shot by Russia over the Black Sea could have temporarily caused a halt in hostilities, and we back off from there. There's a lot of different ways it doesn't continue to escalate. Of course, I'm making a video scenario where the whole point is it's going to escalate. I'll say this, there are certain points where there's probably no turning back. And so when I look at different scenarios posted, I seen one from infographics maybe, and it wasn't plausible some of the stuff they were saying in that, because once we start targeting like the opposing side's silos, they're going to have to use them or potentially lose them. So there's going to come a point where they're going to say we have to launch, and maybe every country has different states of readiness on this. We don't know, at least general public doesn't know the level of maintenance and what the reality is. We know what is put to the public in best estimates. But there is definitely a point, especially when I'm doing this, and I tried to think of different ways I could justify like a limited attack on some of the silos that Russia wouldn't launch everything they have, and in counterpoint that the United States wouldn't launch silos. Now you could hold back the subs, and I did in this scenario, held back the majority of the sub-launch ballistic missiles because there's not as much of a danger there potentially, but there still is some danger there because what we don't know, what can only be guessed at, is could we hunt and destroy and take down the Russian boomers? And could they potentially do it to us? How good are we at tracking them? Our attack subs, could we eliminate them before they were able to fire? If they're being attacked, would they give the order to fire or risk losing them? And so, with the Chinese ballistic missile subs as well. And, like some things like not all ballistic missile subs are created equal. The Chinese ones are known for being extremely loud. So they probably are a little easier to track. But if they're kept closer to in some of those shallower waters, are we sending our assets there and risking detection ourselves? There's a whole slew of anti-submarine warfare. And that's where you really got to use something like a command modern operations to simulate some of that stuff. And it's, it's fascinating, but that's very time consuming and it's not very visually appealing. So I don't tend to do very well video-wise either. And I'll be honest with you, most of the videos I spend the most time on don't do as well versus ones that are kind of simple and but are visually impressive, and so those tend to do a little bit better. And that's where it comes in the difficulty on this. So some of the decisions I had to make, like you have to look at who is potentially in power in the country at the time. So like I made the decision to have, when nukes were detonated by Russia in France, that the French gave the order to target Moscow and St. Petersburg and a few other command and control locations. Would they do that? We have Macron, I can never say his name right, but you know what I'm talking about. But now there's a new government incoming, and it's going to be more left-based after the right-wing, far-right group had a very successful election, pre-election, or whatever it was. Again, I'm not super familiar with the French election system. I apologize. I'm probably more familiar with, obviously the United States and then the United Kingdom as well. Mainly because I watch a lot of the Spitting Image from the 80s, so I know quite a bit about the British government system from at least the 80s. So if you need something about Nigel Lawson or Michael Heseltine, I'm your guy. I know, at least I know what their puppets did. Anyways, back on track here. And so, I made that decision, but again, in the real world, who knows, right? In the real world, right now, as it stands, which I had said this prior, but once, of course, once the election stuff came around, then all of a sudden all the Democrats started saying the same thing about Biden's probably mentally unfit. Well, what happens if nuclear exchanges start happening? What happens if the sole determining factor is somebody that's not able to make a good, concise decision in a few amount of minutes? Now, they're briefed on stuff. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but and there'll be people that say, well, they don't make decisions anyways. It's the puppet master controlling the strings. Well, all we have to go off of is what's publicly available. And at the end of the day, unless they were completely incapacitated, would they be able to make the decisions? If we were already getting nuked and a president hesitated, would the military kind of take charge? Kennedy was worried about that during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Here, beer. So a lot of questions about that. So I had to make certain decisions doing the scenario, and to keep it to be a slow escalation, but something I felt was at least plausible, somewhat realistic. Of course, all sides probably jump to the nukes a little more quickly. Like, I made the decision for after the bomb was accidentally detonated in Tokyo by North Korea that the United States responded with nuclear-tipped cruise missiles. well, would they have responded with that, or would it have been a conventional strikes against North Korea? And even had they just been conventional strikes against North Korean nuclear sites, there still runs the risk of a Chinese engagement on that front too. So, again, that's a decision that had to be made because that's part of the scenario or whatever. And I remember somebody commented on the Israeli video I did last week. Appreciate the comment. You're just making shit up, Well, what scenario, what simulation isn't just making stuff up? This isn't happening in real life. You have to make decisions on how things are going to go, and then try to do the simulation, see what would happen if this happened. You know, but hey, whatever. I mean, there's people have social media gives everybody a platform to say stuff, no matter how dumb it is, and there's a lot of dumb stuff out there, and people may watch and think, well, myself included, that's great, but yeah, I don't care. And so, excuse me. With some of the decisions, though, I made as we kind of ran through it was that, they're going to go to nukes probably a little faster than they would in real life because there's not a lot of conventional strikes built into the simulation. And I was going to utilize command modern operations to bridge that gap. But the time factor just doing the nuclear targeting was just too time consuming. I mean, just difficult. And switching between the two platforms, again, neither one's extremely visual type of thing, but command modern operations is extremely non-visual. It's probably meant, it's meant for militaries and stuff, training exercises, and of course the general public there's a commercial and a off the shelf. There's a professional and then an off-the-shelf commercial version, and of course that commercial version appeals to people that are interested in this kind of stuff, but it's certainly not a visually appealing simulation by any means. And so it's a very, very small audience, and the return, which I'm still doing some stuff with command operation, but again, it takes quite a bit of time to really make it worthwhile. You can see one of my videos. I'll put it in the description. It's one of the videos I did before my channel. I say took off because it's not like it's a huge channel, but I have gotten, a fair decent number of subscribers for somebody that just does this as a hobby. That's kind of maybe fourth or fifth in my list of things I do. So, and decent amount of watch time and everything, at least to get to the lowest level of a YouTube creator or whatever. And but I did it before any of that stuff, and so, but it gives you an idea of what command and operation looks like and what it can kind of do. It was an attempted U.S. first strike on China, and it goes through the difficulties of trying to pull that off. And it didn't succeed, and once I played it out, it ended up with, unfortunately, a lot of losses on both sides, but certainly it didn't stop a lot of nukes from landing on the west coast of the United States. So, excuse me. I'm a little bit gassed. I trained a ton today, so I trained our shoulders and legs, but I'm still not training legs. Just to segue into that, I'm still not training legs because with a lot of this big stuff, I can't risk jacking up my knee or whatever. So, but what I do on leg day, I do my shoulders, and then I'll always do rowing on Concept 2. And so today I did intervals on it, high intensity intervals on the Concept 2. And then midday I just big on just the walking. I got the the Fitbit, and just trying to get in a lot of steps. So then I went back, was doing walking, just kind of fast walking, and then I did a few rounds of boxing, and then jumped on the exercise bike and did more of that, and then I finished up with more walking afterwards. So all total was about an hour of cardiovascular conditioning. That's after the rowing and the other stuff. So, and then I'll probably hit another half hour or so here, just walking or whatever, getting in steps. I think, what am I at? About 10,000 steps now. So, also did some sprints. So I'm not much of a runner just because just really doesn't do a lot for what my training purposes are. But got to defend the belt coming up, so got to get in tip top. So anyways, as you've seen some of the gym stuff too, as I've been here talking and stuff, I have week 3, World War III to come out. So again, there's a lot of missiles have been, a lot of the nuclear stockpiles have been expended. There's still sub-based missiles, and so France, the UK, Russia, China, US all have some boomers out there. There's still between India and Pakistan, so they still have weapon systems in place. Israel still has a little bit as well, and so there's still quite a bit to work through. And then after I get done with that, I'm kind of working on just a single video that's going to be just a visual representation of kind of what I work through. So if you've seen my Cuban Missile Crisis Goes Hot, it'll be similar to that, where it's less of the actual simulation. You're not going to see very much of the simulation, but you're going to see some 3D representations, some videos of some of the leaders kind of talk. And of course, it's just going to be footage of them talking. And then I'm going to put, what they're saying at the bottom, because it's obviously not them actually saying it, because this is a hypothetical situation. But it's going to be much more of a visual thing versus a simulation thing. So hopefully people like that. I'm kind of practicing on some of that. If you've seen any of my previous kind of animation, I do it very rudimentary. Sorry about that. I do it very rudimentary. I actually just use Photoshop, and then it's literally like old animation where it's like Photoshop, and there's a ton of different pictures I save at different sizes, and then put it into a video editor one frame at a time. And so I don't use, and I should say I haven't used like After Effects or DaVinci or any of that stuff, which is ridiculous. Should have been practicing this all along, just really doing it old school. And so it takes me an enormous amount of time. So I'm trying to learn the new stuff and everything. So, all right, look, I think I have 2 days until my services, because I also use HitFilm, not HitFilm Express, but I'm switching over to Adobe products. And just because as I'm trying to take this a little more serious and everything with the video editing, because I may start doing some on a professional level here, not as a main thing, but some opportunities in my professional life to be able to implement that. So it's one of the big reasons why I'm trying to make some changes, and one of which is to start using Adobe products besides just Photoshop. Crap. So I'm going to stop the video now. Hopefully some more people start watching these like rant type of videos, because they might understand the other videos I do a little bit better. So unfortunately, some of those videos are getting kind of longer just because of all the attack plans and stuff. I'm going to do some more short form videos, more geared towards your layman type of person who just wants to see a visual spectacle versus a well thought out, attack plan that's cascading, because those, like I said, tend to be a little clunky sometimes. But that's it. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.